Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I'm joined today by my friend, colleague, and owner of T3 Athletics, Tom Taylor. Tom, how you doing today?
Good, my man. How you doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Tom is a personal trainer, and I wanted to get him on the channel. I've been trying to get him on the channel for the last 2-3 weeks. I've been chasing him down. He's a busy man.
Busy, of
He's
course.
uh, he's actually one of the guys that's actually keeping himself busy during COVID-19. So he's hard to get a hold of. But today I want to talk to him about the fitness industry, everything, diet, training, everything, supplementation. But first of all, how you doing right now?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just got home. I just got home from being outside, and I've been trying to be outside in the safest way possible because of all this. Because things are ever evolving and things are changing all the time. So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's kind of how I think we all have to be at the moment, isn't it? I mean, we all
Yeah.
have to sort of adapt and adjust and try to do our best to stay sane and whatnot. So yeah.
Well, Tom, you've been in the industry for a long time. I actually think you've probably been there longer than I have.
Okay.
What made you decide to become a personal trainer?
It sort of just happened, Nick. Basically, I got home. I spent 6 years overseas, and I spent 4 years. The last sort of stint I had in Japan, I was teaching English, and I came back here. I went to Australia after that, but then came back here, and I was trying to get into something that was more sort of business oriented and try to find a job, and realized that it was a tough go, and I just didn't seem to work out. And in the process of trying to find work, I was teaching people, I was training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for Tim Shears at Gracie Barra. And I was doing some PT classes for his wife, Sarah Shears, who was running a really successful business at Cocoon Athletics. The two of them were working out of that. So I started there, was doing part-time work, just trying to get some money to survive here, doing interviews and stuff. And my client base just started to grow from teaching and also from doing all the PTs that Sarah sort of set up for me. And nothing really panned out with the real world, so to speak. So I ended up finding myself having a career in this, and it just sort of took off, and I really don't have any regrets about it. It's been fantastic. So I loved it. I still do.
So how long have you been working in the industry now?
I got home in 2008. So yeah, so basically I started up and then sort of went full tilt, I guess. Yeah, maybe a year
Okay.
from then. So yeah.
And is that when you started your company, T3 Athletics?
No, T3 Athletics happened probably 3 years after that, I
Okay.
guess. I was just contracting and really not biting into the whole, labeling myself as that or creating my own business. And then that sort of happened, and things changed, and gyms were closing, and we had to move here, move there. And I just realized I just needed to solidify myself as my own sort of entity. And then that's kind of how it came to be. T3 Athletics stands for To the Top Athletics, but my name is Thomas Alistair Ian Clark Taylor the Third. I'm not royalty, but it's a really weird, bit of a long name and a funny sort of play off of that too. So T3 has got a couple of meanings, but To the Top is kind of that's what I took from it. So that's and again, just building people up to the top, and that's kind of where it came from.
So what type of clients do you primarily work with then?
I've worked with, just everybody that wants to train, and we share share the same sort of level of, the goals and the same passions and whatnot. I mean, I've trained people from all across the board, from professional athletes, boxers, MMA fighters, triathletes, to your everyday average chargers, and then into the film industry as well. So that's kind of it's just, the industry is so, and as running a business like this, as Nick, you don't know who's going to walk through the door, and you don't know who's going to end up presenting themselves in front of you to be like, hey, I want you to train me. And it just, there's some months, some days, some weeks that are it's, you're busy and some days you're not. And the ebbs and flows of this business make you need to be able to train anyone that really wants to come in and needs your help. So that's kind of, my doors are open to everybody that wants to change and to be better. And, that's kind of what what I love about doing this. It's awesome.
So you cater to everyone, really.
I try to,
Yeah.
for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, with people that, a lot of personal training stuff it's about connection, right? And if you don't connect with a person, you're not going to get them to do what you want them to do, especially you're putting them into some seriously uncomfortable positions, and they have to trust you, and there's that rapport that you need to build. So, all of that encompasses the fact that, yes, I'm open to everybody, but there's times where, I've said no to clients, and they've said no to me, and it's just a matter of a fit. So, but it doesn't mean that the door's closed for, I'm only training these people or what have you, because
Sure.
that's not what I got into this industry for, or this business for, because that's not what it's about. I don't,
Right.
anyways,
Right. You mentioned the film industry, and that's why one thing I've always found interesting with you is you actually, and I know this, you have a lot of clients who are in the film industry, a lot of well-known actors. Now, how did that come about? How did you make that first connection breaking into that industry?
That came about because one of Richie Yip, who owns Infighting,
Yeah.
where I was training out of when that all happened, one of his good friends and training partners, James Bamford, who was the stunt choreographer for Arrow, who's now a director, and he's moved on to bigger and better things and whatnot. But he was basically, I guess he saw how I was training people, and he had one of his actors that needed to turn into a superhero. And so he needed her to look the part and be the part, move properly, know how to punch, kick, just look like a superhero.
Right.
And so Richie connected me with Bam, and then Bam basically connected me with Katie Cassidy. And Katie was the first of many from that show. And then it just grew from there because we did so well together. She worked her butt off, and she really sort of took on that role, and her work ethic and her ability to sort of, take it all in and really sort of focus on being a superhero and training like that. Everyone sort of saw that, and they saw that success. And Bam's a hard guy to please. I mean, he's a stunt guy. Like, those guys are like, not good enough. Do this, do that, and I would get those messages too, right? He's like, she's dropping her hand or what have you. So, he was very critical and to for good reason, because he knew that he had to she had to look that part. And so her and I just worked really well together, and she just sort of sang my praises. He sang my praises in his own stunt guy way.
Yeah.
And I knew I was doing a good job because he would keep sending me people, and so I was kind of his go-to to all right, you need to go train with Tom and learn how to do this, learn how to do that. And he would give me protocols and stuff that certain actors on the show or characters on the show would need to learn. So yeah, it was cool, man. And every season I would get sort of the new pod of new people coming in. So that's kind of how that sort of unfolded.
You ever get nervous training celebrities though?
I was nervous. I mean, he didn't exactly sort of make me not nervous by this is Katie Cassidy, David Cassidy's daughter, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy, right? And then you meet them, and as I mean, the thing with back to the whole rapport and trust thing, it's like we're the leaders of that session, and we have to to be able to create that level of authority or that being that person that they have to trust. I was definitely nervous, and I had to train Stephen Amell, who was the Green Arrow, a couple seasons after that.
Yeah.
And of course I was nervous for sure, but I mean, it was also they're there, their work ethic, these guys work hard. The one thing I know of, what I've realized about actors is that they take instruction and direction well. That's what a director does, right? Okay. So if they trust you, and if they know that they're there for a certain purpose to obviously make their character better, if they're a professional, they're going to do what you're telling them to do.
Sure.
So it's a bit of a hi, how's it going? Kind of strange. And then all of a sudden it turns into, it's now we've got a connection. Now we are working together for a common goal. And so let's make sure that we don't piss Bam off. And make them, that's it. So, I mean, she had a boxing scene, and I actually went to set with her because she was really nervous and she wanted my direction. So I'm like, she's working the bag as she had to do on the in the scene. And it was the first time I've trained pro boxers and I've been in their corners, and it was like the closest thing I could sort of equate to that same feeling where it's on, perform, you got to go, and like,
right.
cut, okay, like, so like those breaks. So it was cool, and it was so appreciated by her too, because I was in her corner, and I felt that like that just elevated our relationship in the sense of like I was there for her, and that meant a lot too. So, those little things obviously build up to bigger things, and that's kind of how you sort of calm down when you think about getting nervous about who you're training, or like someone building it up, like, oh my god. So yeah, that's
so you would say most of the actors that you've worked with are highly coachable then?
Absolutely, for sure. The only time they become more uncoachable is when you become too familiar with them.
I see. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're like, now you've got this relationship, and I know that you probably feel that too with like clients that when they first come in, they're nervous, they're scared, adrenaline's pumping. They're just like, okay, I'm just going to do everything. And then all of a sudden they get a feel for you, just like you get a feel for them. And then when that happens, that dance becomes a bit more of a negotiation sometimes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's when things need to sort of like, that's when like you're sort of shifting to another level of relationship where, you're not like, well, really, do we need to do 20?
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, yeah, we do, because that's what's up now. But if you can't sell that, or you can't have them believe in that, but you would never get that question from someone that came in firsthand, or the first time, or maybe even the first month that you train them. They would just, listen to you and do what you told them to do. So
sure.
that's kind of the dance where I feel is most interesting with that.
No, I totally get that. That's the thing with personal training. It's such a personal service, right? You do develop those personal relationships with people, and it's almost as if, where do you separate the friendship from the actual trainer versus client? Do you find that difficult to separate sometimes?
For sure. Absolutely. And I think it's, sometimes it shifts into that level of, what, it's better that you're here than on the couch or at the bar. So, what, if this is how it's going to go, then fine. But also let's reassess your goals. It's like, I've never been blamed for not having somebody reach their goals. And that's not saying that I have accomplished all their goals with them. It's just that there's something in them that knows that also like the responsibility lies on them still too. And so when it comes to that dance where you're sort of, you're going back and forth with them about, all right, listen, like, we're friends here, but we still have stuff to do.
And got work to do. Yeah,
exactly. So I guess that's kind of where that dance comes into play. And, I've had to sit down with a couple clients that weren't in that industry and go like, we're skating here. Like, we're not doing anything, like, and are you happy about this? And those are tough conversations because it's a call, right? And how you phrase that, how you sort of bring that up is obviously very, very important, or that's very important. And,
sure.
Like not like you're calling them out going like, you're not doing anything and blah, blah, blah. But there's still that dance where you really need to know either what's going to like light them up a little bit. And it's tough when you are friends with them, or you have had this level of complacency, and part of it's like on us when we're complacent with them too. So it's like a check for us as trainers to go like, hey, why are you letting that happen? Because it's easy, it's easy.
Exactly.
Like, they're not complaining about it. Well, cool. You're paying me, cool, whatever. But you're not a before and after story. And that's not cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? You're putting that kind of money, investing that kind of money into this, and your time and your effort. So let's have a chat. And it was, I've got one of my clients that really sticks out when that happened, and he just shifted, and it was cool because it was really neat to see that change. And it changed. It really did. But it's a hard dance to know when you do that.
You're right. And that's a difficult conversation to have, because you risk maybe, losing that client because you're calling them on the shit and you're saying, hey, look, we're not doing anything here. We're spending the whole, like you've seen this before on the floor, trainers and their clients just having conversations the whole 60 minutes. Right. And, I say, I'm like, what is the trainer doing? They're just taking money and nothing's going on.
For sure.
One thing, I've worked alongside on the floor with you for about a good 3.5 years now.
It's crazy.
And
Man, that time flies.
it flies by quick. And I swear, you can go back on every episode and every trainer I've talked to on this, and I haven't said this to anyone yet. You are by far the most creative trainer I've ever actually worked alongside.
Thank you.
I don't know where you come up with half the exercises. So I want to ask you right now, do you just think of this stuff in your head, or some of the stuff I see you doing, it's crazy.
Right. I think the balance between creative and effective is always the dance, right? Because I think that, for people like ourselves that maybe say we like working out, and we know what works, and we know that it doesn't have to have the bells and whistles, so to speak, right? To make people go like, okay, cool. And I think that the balance of keeping things, and that's one of the things that people will say, like in a testimonial of mine, is like, I never know what I'm going to get. It's super creative and blah, blah, blah. Right. And then on my side of things, like, not to be like negative about it per se, but it is one of those things where you're like, yeah, but is it working? And is it like, and so you've got that like little, like the fun little things, but also the things that you need to do, like the foundations. And that's why I think the basis of I love all of those, like all of the lifts that have like been tried and true, tested, like Olympic lifts, and like all the stuff that we, that you and
I know you like those.
Right.
You do them.
100%. Yeah. But then how do we make that more creative? How do we make it a bit more fun and a bit more like, like people don't want to go in and do, say, the same thing all the time, or they want that. Like, that's one thing that I get from people, is that they want to do things that they wouldn't do themselves, right? And that they would never think of themselves. And it's also part of what keeps me stimulated as a trainer, because like I'm looking at things and I'm trying to be like, my mind's like looking at it, like, well, what could we do with that? What could, like, and in a safe way. And when you have people that are really good athletes and people that are in good shape and then know their bodies and know how to move right, like, that's like a fun little project. You're okay, well, what if we just did this, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of fun to do. And they usually are really receptive to that too, because they want to try new things and they want to test themselves. So it's a really good symbiotic sort of relationship in that sense, because, it's like, but there is that moment sometimes where you're like, really, like, you gotta have like the pat on the head, rub in the belly while you're, so I don't know. I struggle with that sometimes, but I also know that people appreciate it. And I like that creativity because it is something that keeps me stimulated as a trainer.
Yeah. And that's one thing I'll say with you too, is I know, because I work alongside you, you do give the deadlifts, you give the bench press, you give the seated rows, you give all the compound movements, you give the barbell squats. But then every once in a while I look over, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And I've never seen it before. I'm intrigued. I'm like, that looks kind of cool.
Right.
Is that just to kind of keep people, because, sometimes the gym can get a very boring place, is that just to keep them kind of just like the carrot in front of the nose and keep the client wanting to come back?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of like, when I'm, you sort of clap your hands like, okay, so we're going to try this, and they're looking at you kind of like, whoa, what are you even thinking about? And that's and that's a fun thing, especially when they're game, and that you can throw that at certain people. And that's part of, as like reading people and knowing who's going to be receptive to it and who's going to go, I don't want to do that, And so you got clients that want to go in there and just do the basics, and that's fine. 100% for sure. My biggest, like, sort of the hardest thing I kind of find to deal with is like the quiet moments, like the rest moments, so to speak. Like when you're sort of like, okay, like I had one of my clients, this is a good example. Like one of my pro boxers, like I trained her for her first pro fight, second pro fight, her third pro fight. She had started dating this trainer, this guy who was like big into cycling, and he basically like he bought her an assessment and a workout with some UBC trainer, like PhD in in science, like kinesiology, or he was like he was one of the best, and that's awesome. It was super cool. But he basically bought her like this training program package for that. He sat me and her down, and I could see how he was like all of a sudden the boss. And I'm listening to him. Okay, so she needs to be doing this, and it's got to be like, and it was like a strength-based program. And strength-based programs are like, they consist of, he was doing like, sort of like a superset between two exercises, like push press and squat,
push press pull. Yeah, okay, get it.
And so it was like 4 sets of 8, like she should be crying after like, like the last set and blah, blah, blah. And then rest 2 minutes and then go again.
Right.
And it was like this, it was a bit of it was an insult because, like for one, I'd trained her for 2 years, and her and I were on the same page too. And it was kind of like, I had a really tough time with that because I didn't want to intrude or impose on their relationship. She's my client. If she's a go with this, because he's kind of, sort of pushing that, I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I guess we'll just do this. And so we trained like now 4 times a week, but it was really like rigid, the 2-minute rest. And I followed it because that's what, I was
told to do. Yeah. Okay.
But there was moments we're sitting there like sort of like twiddling our thumbs because like we're waiting for this shit to like, the rest time and whatever. We're like, okay. And, it was the worst training, like, and the most boring training that we had both ever done.
Sure.
And there was moments where she's like, I wish we could kind of do what we used to do. I'm like, yeah, no, we'll break up with the fucking guy. Right? And then that fight, she lost. I'm not blaming that, okay, but it was just one of those things where, your team and who's around you and that level of synergy and, what, like we were trained for 2 years just fine. Like there wasn't an issue. It wasn't like she was needing to be stronger per se for the fight either. It was just like, well, this is what that guy said. And sure, if it was science-based, like that's a science-based sort of like, assessment and program. Cool. But like that's just one part of all of it. Right. And that's going back to that level of rapport. And there's so many dimensions to personal training. It's not rocket science, but there is like, we're sitting here not having fun training. Her not having fun training makes her not want to train or give her that anyways. I'm rambling, but I think, you understand what I'm saying.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, I call those guys gym scientists. Everything looks good on paper, but as you know, it's not always textbook in the gym. It's not always black and white. I've had clients come into the gym with me and we're scheduled to do a leg day and they go, Nick, for some reason, my lower back's really bothering me. I say, no problem. We're going to switch it to an upper body day. We'll get leg day in later on this week. You have to adapt. And I know there's quite a few kinesiologists out there, and I mean, they know their stuff. They probably know way more than I do, but at the same time, they've got 3 or 4 clients. That's it.
Yeah.
Because the sessions become, like you said, they're a little bit boring, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You need to have a reason to go into the gym, right? There needs to be some excitement.
There needs to be excitement. There needs to be fear. There needs to be like also that level of like knowing that you're accomplishing something and feeling like, you're getting a better workout than if you did it on your own.
Yeah.
And those things are factors that are also what encompasses personal training, because personal training is in its essence personal. Yeah. So your check-in, right? How you feeling today? What's going on? Like that's what we should do and what we need to do. And as a check-in point where you're like, my lower back's hurting. Okay, cool. Well, I had this scheduled. Okay, we're not going to do that. So you reach into your toolbox and you're like, well, we'll do this instead.
Yeah.
And it's not only appreciated, but it's more valuable. And that's what makes a good personal trainer, as opposed to, nope, we're sticking to the program. I mean, there's very few trainers, I think, out there that do that, but it's still like when you start drinking the Kool-Aid of a program per se and negate the human element of it, and to the same point where someone, they're like, my lower back's hurting, you're like, you know what? I think you're fine. You know why? Because I know you. So we're doing this. Zip it. Like that's another balance too, right? Like just because they say that this doesn't mean that that's what it is. It's like, yeah, dude, we're going to be just fine. Pick up that weight. You don't need lighter, whatever it is. Like, and that's, I think where, educating people on the value of that level of not only intuition, but professionalism and knowing like, you can do this. You're cool. Like Jeremy Martin, for example, like, I was like, I want to try my max dead. And I pulled what I pulled and I was successful. And I look at him, I'm like, he's like, let's go heavier. I'm like, are you sure? Because I don't feel like that was the best form. He's like, nothing in what you just did right there is making me nervous.
Okay.
That alone was like, I mean, obviously from trainer to trainer, I was like,
Yeah.
I'll pull whatever you put on there then.
Right.
Because I believe in you. I know him. He's the guy's legit, and he's a professional. And if he said, no, dude, that was ugly, we'd stop.
Yeah.
But not everyone has that level of trust, but that's something we have to build.
You build that through experience, I think.
For sure.
Right? And you've been in this game for a long time, and that's a perfect example. People come in and they say, "Oh, this hurts or that hurts," and if you know your client, are they just dogging it? Are they actually in pain? And you also know sometimes maybe they just might need a little bit more warm up before you go right into that workout, right? And that's experience. One thing that sets you apart, though, from the average trainer is you've got a background in martial arts too.
Right.
So and I've seen you do this. With the same clients, one workout will be all boxing, and the next workout will be all weights.
Right.
Do you have a certain plan that you go in with each client and say, okay, today we're going to do martial arts, tomorrow we're going to do boxing, the next day we're going to do weights? Or is it depending on the client that you work with? Do they tell you what they're looking to achieve?
I think a lot of it, I took from one of my jiu-jitsu instructors, I'll never forget it. That's why I'm saying it now, is that he's like, you give people 89% of what they need and 10% of what they want.
Okay.
Right. But when it comes to a lot of people that come to me for, well, they come to most trainers. They want to get stronger. They want to get more toned. They want to lose weight. They want, these are all just when you do a consult, you're like, yeah, it's a huge, that umbrella is massive. And then the fun part of what I do and what I'm able to do is to incorporate the martial arts. So it's like a lot of them come because they want to do kickboxing, boxing. They want to learn how to fight. They want to so a lot of times, the balance between the two is strength building and, becoming, more toned and all that sort of stuff, which also the martial arts component also encompasses that too. But the back and forth of those is kind of we're going to do weights today, and then we'll do some martial arts, the next day or what have you. So the split and making that, having that as an option, again, goes back to that creative side of things where I get to do all of these things because I can, and I'm able to incorporate them and make those workouts more stimulating and less of a workout and more of a training session, and a learning session. So when you're boxing and kickboxing, you're learning technique and you're hitting pads and stuff, it doesn't feel like a workout as much because you're hitting pads and you're doing something that's not just working out. Right. And so the balance between those two largely depends on what the client's looking for, but also how they're feeling in that day or what have you, to the points that we were speaking of before. So it's just a great option to have. And I love it.
I can't offer it.
Harder on my body, that's for sure.
Well, that's just it. I get to work alongside a lot of you guys who do that, with guys like Ian and Migo and Richie and Blair. And you guys are on the floor. I mean, you're going to break a sweat too, because you're just getting as much into that movement and that exercise as they are, right?
For sure.
Not like personal training where you're kind of watching and you're correcting form. You're actually in this workout with them now at this point.
Right. Yeah, especially when you start sparring and stuff like that. But pad holding, the difference between hitting pads and holding pads is not comparable in the level of output, clearly. But you're right. As you're moving around and you're holding pads, you're still mimicking being a fighter. That's what good pad holding is all about. And it's awesome, but it's harder work, but it is also something that gets me going too, because you see somebody just when you see somebody lift things properly, or when they have that aha moment and they can actually feel something working that they might not have worked, whether it's proper muscle engagement or proper form or stuff like that. Those are all these wins that get me excited about training, when someone lifts properly or they can hinge properly or all those things. It's
exciting.
It's totally exciting because they weren't able to do that beforehand. And that's kind of if you were to criticize personal training, because it has this, this stereotype about it that we're just, we're working people out and whatever. But when it doesn't bother me as much anymore, especially because I feel that I have value, as do you, and you're changing people and you're making people, do things with their body. And my whole thing is I want people to be more athletic and move and understand their body more. That's my whole basis, right? And so when I can see people that are doing things that are just that they were not able to do before, that's success. Like, that's awesome. I love it. And that's what lights me up, because you see someone punch properly, their eyes light up. And you're like, whoa, that was a good one. That connection, just like you pull something properly, like, or you pushing something, you're like, oh man, like I feel that. And they feel better. They feel stronger. Like, just all good stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But it's, it doesn't sound as excited. People are like, whatever. But it means a lot.
You mentioned the stigma behind personal training, and you're right. Let's face it, the personal training is known to be a bit of a flaky industry.
Sure.
I have a few clients who are hairdressers, and they say the same thing. I have a few clients who are real estate agents, and they say the same thing. Hey, we're all known to be these flakes, and in the gym, we're known to be these iron gym monkeys, right? That we're just like working out. But do you find when you get a new client, it's hard to break through that stigma? Like, do you find you have to prove yourself to that client and say, hey, look, I'm not one of those trainers. I'm not I'm not a gym monkey. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Those first few sessions.
I think, unlike you, Nick, like who, like people that come to you, for example, like they look at you, like they see your physique. They're like, that guy knows what he's doing. Right. Like, and your physique compared to my physique are just not the same. Right. And we don't train the same way. And I think that, the one equalizer for a lot of people that I find that I can sort of fall back on when it comes to that is, like, sure, like might look in shape, but I'm not ripped and jacked, and like I'm not like, like, oh my God, that guy's got to be a trainer per se.
Right. Okay.
And so when you throw the martial arts component into it, and you look at me as a martial artist and someone that's used and has used strength training and all the work with the lifting and all that stuff to be who I was, and I will say who I was because I don't compete anymore. And I'm not like a martial artist per se, like a competitive martial artist, but those have all helped me be a better martial artist,
right,
a better football player when I was in university, like all of these things. So so I take, that's my sort of like, for my own sort of sense of like feeling like I can probably kick your ass, and so you probably listen to me. Probably a good idea. You know what I mean? I'm saying that in the most, like, in a very humble, like, there's no way I would ever come across that way. There's always this underlying sort of component where I know how to fight, and that sort of like equalizes everything. Like, because we have people that have trainers are power people. They've got a lot of money. They're used to telling people what to do. And so if I don't have the physique that's like, dominating, right, but I can throw punches and kicks and show them like that just stops, like, it just, again, it's an equalizer. And that's what makes me sort of, I think, again, another way of like earning respect from people, like, and clients coming in here because they know that I know how to fight and they don't. And so that's the balance. And I like that. Just like at any dinner party or whenever I meet people that are maybe a little drunk, but wow, what's up? I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a trainer, whatever. Like, I train, but I'm, I'm like, I do martial arts. I teach martial arts, whatever. Yeah. All of a sudden we just start talking about the UFC and everything's cool.
Right away. Yeah.
Like, and that's like, I love that because I'm not talking like that to be like this, like be an alpha. I'm just talking because I'm like, hey man, so what do you like? And that's it. Like, and that's kind of my personality. I like that sort of level of just connecting and just slow down. Just because you're bigger than me doesn't mean you're, and so let's just have a chat. It's cool.
It's funny because a mutual friend of ours, Migo, he mentioned to me on the channel a few weeks ago, he said, boxing, jiu-jitsu, he said, you name it, any type of fighting, he said, it's the most humbling sport you'll ever do. He said, because no matter how good you are, there's always someone out there that can kick your ass.
For sure.
So, and he said right away, so, I mean, for myself personally, I mean, I'm not a fighter, so I can't relate. But I mean, when you say, your body speaks for itself, I actually don't agree with that because I know a lot of bodybuilders who are trainers, and I got to tell you right now, they are terrible trainers.
Right.
They might know how to lift, but they don't know how to sell themselves. And
that's longevity, though, Nick. That's the thing, right? If you're successful at what you do, not only because of the fact that you're a bodybuilder, but you're also able to be a good trainer, and that's why people keep coming back, and that's why this, like, trying to find, like, to get a, sort of cut you off, but like to get that level of a client base and be a success, like run a business like this. If you're not good, it's pretty clear cut, right? Unless you're just pulling the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
Like you could look like, just like there's not a lot of good martial artists out there that don't know how to teach either. It's a skill, right? And
Yes.
that's something that's like, that's what you can, people want to come train with somebody because they look all jacked up and, whatever. But they realize that, they're not good at cueing. They're not good at teaching. They're not good at program design. They're not like, these are all things that encompass what we get paid to do.
Yeah.
So the proof is in longevity when it comes to someone like either one of us, where people look at us and like, you look the part, this, that, and the other. But if you're not teaching them and guiding them along that same path, then it's not going to last. Like people will go somewhere else, right? So
you can't retain that client. And that's the one thing that I've seen a lot over the years is a lot of trainers, and we're not dogging trainers here, but most trainers have problems retaining their clientele base. You're not one of those trainers. I mean, I've worked alongside you and I've seen you've had the same clients for the past 3-4 years, and they've probably been with you longer than that, but that's just since I've known you.
Yeah.
So that goes to show it's so much more challenging to try out to go and get a new client than rather keep the clients that you have.
100%.
Do you get most of your clients through word of mouth?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. This like right now is actually really, at this time right now it's reminiscent of how I first started, because obviously gyms are closed, and I've been doing Zoom workouts and whatnot. And I've moved outside with singles or people that live together, and obviously are in that same bubble. And the number of referrals that are coming through with that is reminiscent of what it was like when I first started training, right?
Yeah.
Because not only because people are chomping at the bit to exercise at the moment, but also, I'm an option, and I'm also willing to go out and train outside. And it's like it, and again, it's just reconfirming that what I'm giving out there as product and who I am and my training is like, people are like, they go back and talk about it. Like one of my good buddies, and I used to train him. I just started training him again. He's up in Whistler, and he was like, his wife would come home and he's listening to the conversations with her girlfriends, and they're just talking about the workouts and like, oh, you made me do this, or you made me do that. And it wasn't elicited by him. He's just listening to this conversation.
Sure.
It's a topic of conversation when you give someone a wicked workout and they have fun, as opposed to obviously a bad experience, and they'll talk probably louder and more about it. But when you get phone calls like, hey, she wants to join, he wants to join. Like, do you have time? Like, you're doing something right when that's what you need to do. So it's like, that's where like my focus too with like social media thing. Like I had a good social media sort of like,
presence.
Thank you. To a certain degree, but a lot of it's just because I was training people that people wanted to watch. It wasn't really because they cared about me. And I noticed that with the drop too, right? Like, and you're looking at it, you're like, oh my gosh. But then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I thought I would like to do that because I wanted to reach out and train people from all around the world and hopefully affect people in a good way. But the more especially with the COVID thing, I'm like, whoop, like community, Vancouver.
Yeah.
I want to reach out and train. I'm training people around the world still, but not a lot. And, but it is more like, it's bringing me back to my roots, and I like my roots, and I like where it brought me. Like I liked where I came from, and I don't mind going back to this level of building things up again that way. And again, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right.
You're building things very organically. And, you and I are roughly the same age. So it's like, neither of us come from that social media era, really. Right. And, even with the YouTube channel that I'm doing now, a lot of people say, hey, are you trying to get new clients from this? I'm like, no, I'm just actually doing it for our current clients. And I actually just like talking to people too. I thought, well, it's COVID-19. We're supposed to be practicing social distancing. I don't really get to see you anymore. So, I mean, this is a great way just to communicate with people. And I've never relied on social media to try to get my clients.
No,
I think it's a good, like you said, it's good to have a presence online, but I would never use it as a way to try to network and try to gain more followers and clients alike, because I think in our industry anyway, word of mouth is huge.
For sure. And that's like, you're the same.
Yeah.
Your referral base pretty
Oh
much.
yeah, 100%. I don't remember the last time I ever spent a cent on marketing.
Right.
I mean, I don't do Facebook ads. I don't do Instagram ads. I mean, I'm on Instagram and Facebook like you are, but I'm not paying for ads or getting the marketing team behind me trying to promote myself.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
And, the so-called experts will tell us, hey, you should be doing that. But like you said, you're building it back organically like you did 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to actually ask you now, because it sounds like during COVID, I was going to ask you, how are you doing during COVID-19? But it sounds like you're actually building your business even more now. So are you just as busy during COVID-19, or is business slowed down a little bit?
It's slowed. Oh, it's definitely slowed down,
Okay.
and I think I was focusing more on the class aspect of things here, like in reaching out and training, doing classes at Infighting, doing classes at Turf, doing classes at VIP Fitness. And that was one of my newest sort of like efforts to reach more people. Right. And I think that for myself, like, looking at my future, I'm sort of thinking like, if I was going to reach the masses and try to get people on board with my training, I would have to switch to class-based like workouts to really, maximize my time. And right now, because of all of this, obviously classes are not happening, and switching back to that model and having it be successful is very reassuring, and it's not like I was in this like world of self-doubt, but I was in this kind of like, what do you call it? Like, what am I doing here? Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 44 years old, dude. Like, I'm trying to figure out like, how am I going to make this like a long play? And that's all these things like, and that's where I get nervous sometimes. And so the class thing is like, all right, well, cool. Like they're guaranteed, it's guaranteed income, blah, 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 blah. And whatnot. And I like the opportunity and the ability to, again, adapt and have opportunities to train new people. And, my legends and my crew that have been with me, like I've got clients that have been with me for 8 years, like more. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really grateful for that, because I know that those are relationships that are, that are not going to break, and not from even a business perspective. It's like, because they've gone and come back and all that sort of stuff based on stuff. But I think, it's a tough dance sometimes, because this isn't something I feel like I can do forever, and, but that's where I play in my head with like, like, what am I doing here and what's going on? And right now it's like survival mode ish.
It is.
Right. But it is, I guess. Right.
It's like you said, starting like when you first started your business all over again in a way, right? Do or die.
And totally. And it's, and that's why, like, I was training someone outside yesterday, and a news crew came out, and this guy, like the camera guy, was setting up the camera, the microphone, and I'm looking over there. I'm like, oh my God, like, I was really nervous. I wasn't sure what was going on, but
right.
And then I sat back and I'm like, come over. Like, everything about what I'm doing right now, I can stand behind, in terms of training somebody outside. Everything's been sterilized. I've got my spray bottle. I've got like, they come in, I'm like, everything gets clean before the next person comes in. I'm this distance away. How is that different than someone going out and getting takeout food? How is that different than people going to a park and having beers?
Yeah.
So, but it was still something that was nerve wracking, because I also had somebody filming me from like 50 meters away when I was training a couple, like a married couple, and they were doing pad work, and I'm just on the perimeter. But I see this guy like filming, and I'm like, what are you doing with that? And at the same rate, I'm like, I can stand behind what I'm doing. And I'm also, I got that CRB, that check. I haven't cashed it. I don't want to cash it. I don't have to. So like that's the balance of like that survival, and also the ability to adapt and adjust. But that's what we do. And a lot of people can do it 100%. And some people don't do it as well as others, but
it's really weird, because it's almost like I have a few friends who own their own gyms, and they feel like I can't put anything up because I'm being shamed if I'm training somebody, or if I'm in my own gym training or working out that I pay rent for. I'm not training anyone, just myself. And they've told me this. I have a few buddies who are this, and people shame me. They get mad at me. And I say, well, yeah, it's an interesting time right now, because we get all these facts and say, don't do this, don't do that. But at the end of the day, you still want to stay healthy and fit. And I've seen some of the stuff, your content that you posted, and you guys are doing social distancing. You're not doing massive groups of 10, 20 people. You're doing one-on-ones and partner sessions with people who live in the same house. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. And it's legit too. I mean, I'm not sugarcoating that either, with regards to that. It's like, and that's what sort of makes me feel okay with it. It's like, I mean, I'm not posting everything, but it's still that point where I mean, it's scary / whatever, it's the way it is now, but could I post this? And if I couldn't post that, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And like, that's the dance where you could, like, it's not a bad sort of quantifier when you think about like what you're doing, right? Like if you're doing something that you feel yourself that like you can't stand behind when you're doing, like when you are training somebody, then obviously that's something to think about. But if you can actually look at that and go like, yeah, man, like I said, I mean, the television crew, like, come over, let's have a chat. Like, did you hear about that guy in Kelowna who was running that, it was some sort of like reality TV show with like I don't know, probably like a bunch of hot girls, hot guys in a house or whatever. And they got called out because they were saying they were all living together and they'd all been tested or what have you. But the camera crew that was coming in and out weren't. Okay. And obviously, like, they got a knock on the door, and the guy that was putting it out there, it was some sort of fitness thing. I don't really know what it was.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, and this was early on. Like, this is when people were like, "What? Like, what are you doing?" Right? Okay. Like, that was quite a. It was a bit of a reach for that guy, whoever was doing that, because the people that were complaining were, I think, even maybe on the crew going, we're coming in and out of that place. Like, they don't know where we've been and blah, blah, blah. But he got approached, they got knocked on the door, and he was trying to stand behind his sort of position on that. And at that point you're looking at it, and even right now to that, like, I don't think I would agree with that either. Like, it just, because it sounds like, there's a lot of cross-pollination up there, right? If they're all living in the same house and they've all been tested, cool. Yeah. But if you've got these worker bees coming in and out that you don't know where they've been, then, that's not, I don't think that's quite safe. Right?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
But to be under scrutiny like that and to be able to stand behind what you do is my point here, is where it's like, okay, cool. Like, talk to me about this, because this is what I believe in, because the number of people that want to work out, need to work out, have to work out, feel better about working out. And it is something that is so important to do to stay healthy and keep your immune system strong and all these things that are, I don't know. It's just, I'm glad, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I don't regret what I'm doing. And I'm just going to keep being as like safe as possible about all this. And I think it's a really scary world out there, because there's the level of people the different levels of like people that can, like, the different levels of what's okay, what's not okay to people is going to be a real topic and a real topic of conflict. Or it could be like, people are going to start, like, there's going to be a lot of fights out there. Like,
there will be.
Right? It's not going to be easy.
And I think there's guys who are into training like you and I are, and they see people like you and I, and we're still working with clients and stuff, and they actually get mad and maybe a little bit of jealousy too. That envious is, well, I can't do that. And so they're going to shit on you or I for doing that. One thing I want to talk to you though, before I let you go, is your Zoom workouts. 'Cause I know you're killing it with the Zoom workouts. How did you find that transition from working with someone in person to, working with them from your living room?
Yeah. Have you done it?
I have not done a Zoom workout. No. Okay. Megan, who I work with, she does our Zoom workouts. I don't think I could do it. No? I don't think I could.
Interesting. Yeah. Like, I was pleasantly surprised with how effective and how much value I feel I could offer in a Zoom workout. Because it's pretty cool, because you're, depending on how you set up your screen, you can see who, like, right now I'm split screen with you, so I can see you. But, like, otherwise you go like full screen with your client. But you can see everything. Like, I can see their movements. I can cue them properly. I don't really like touch my clients. Like, to set them properly or what have you, as much as like what I've learned is that I'm terrible at queuing. I
Okay.
mean, like I want to be
At least
like,
you're honest about it.
it is, but I mean, the one again to that point, like as a for Zoom, like when I record my sessions and I look back on it,
Yeah.
I'm listening to myself talk, and one, I don't know anyone that likes to hear themselves talk, but when I hear myself say okay as much as I say okay, or I go and then do it here as a
Yeah.
like I'm not queuing properly, right? And this
I
is like,
understand.
or not properly, but clearly, or I'm just, it's messy. And so it's taught me a lot about how I cue and how I talk to people
Okay.
and how I like the dialogue between the two of us.
Yeah.
And also, like for boxing and teaching, I love it because like I'm just like you're sitting back, it's on my TV usually, so I can like I'm watching them, and I've made some great progress with a lot of my clients that have just started boxing and training because I can teach them properly. I can show them how to do things properly. And I was stoked about it. I mean, aside from the whole, like, hi, hello, like I hate all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once you kind of get into it, and I don't like the big groups because I can't connect with people.
I see. Okay.
And so when it comes to personal training, that connectivity is so important.
Right.
So one-on-ones is great, or a couples is great when it comes to the boxing and stuff. So I was excited about how well I thought it went with my clients. At the end of the day, they're still craving that sort of personal interaction,
Sure.
100%, right? Even if it's not necessary, it's just something that we all need to have, right? So, that's why the moving outside, I think, is the next step and has been the next step for me, because it's kind of like, hey, how's it going? And I've had to go, hey, like, step back, just like my mom, terrible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
stop, right?
Yeah.
And
It's hard though.
like it is hard, and like we're not used to stopping
No.
6 feet, right? Or like that's just not normal.
No.
If we talk 3 to 4 feet from each other, that's normal, right? And so that stop short and like, hey, how's it going? And then having to tell people like, hey, dude, back up. And running your business and getting paid outside to do stuff, like I really have to set protocols for people because everybody wants to, it's just natural, right? And the fact, like, just because I say that we're going to go work outside doesn't mean that it's a free for all, right? Like, and so
there's still
like,
boundaries.
back up,
Yeah.
back up. And you're like, oh, yeah. And it's met with different sort of reactions, right? Some people are like, or some people are like, oh yeah, sorry. And that's what I mean with this conflict, is people are like, dude, relax. Like, no, I'm not going to relax, especially when I'm trying to run a business here. Like the last thing I need on my resume is that, I was being irresponsible and not following like protocols set out by our health professionals. Like that's all we can go on. That's what I'm going to go on. That's what I can stand behind, and that's what I'm going to do. So like, that's what's so important to me. And I think that's what everyone should be doing,
And I don't know about you, but years ago, and you and I we have another mutual friend, Mike Dirks. Mike and I used to run a boot camp outside together. We're going back like maybe 15 years ago.
Right.
And for some reason, every summer when the boot camps would go outside, it's like the clients just kind of just chilled out. They just relaxed because we were no longer in the gym. So we weren't in that like business setting, I guess. And they're sitting on the grass for 5-10 minutes. They're not like pushing themselves in the gym. They just kind of go.
Right.
Do you think though, post COVID-19, with the way your business is going, because I know you still are doing some Zoom workouts, would you ever consider offering that as another additional service?
100%.
You would. Okay.
For sure. Yeah. I always thought in my mind, I was always thinking like, the bigger picture, like if I was able to go down to Mexico for 2 months and, and I want to go surfing, and I come back and I'm running some Zoom classes or, some Zoom sessions and like, and having that, I think this, this has been kind of a, trial by fire, and also lit that fire because I had to, with regards to trying this out, because I've always been really apprehensive about it because it is strange. It's weird, and so I think, the people that you can sort of like, the people that have been, that I've trained with that way, and some are more receptive to it than others. I still want to offer that as an option, right? So, hey, I'm going away, but I'm totally down to train with you, like twice a week, I'll see you on a Zoom call. If you can, I think it has value and it should still hold value if you really want to keep people on track.
Sure.
But a lot of it, I think a lot of people are kind of looking at it as a bit of an out to like, nah, I'll just wait till you come back.
Right.
So, to push it, going like, no, we're going to do a Zoom call because you need to keep on track. And I know that you're not going to do it yourself. Going back to the trust and that, like, all right, Nick's saying that I need to do this, and we need to train because he knows that I'm not going to do it, and I know I'm not going to do it. And it's not the same as training face to face, but it's an option. It's just another option right now, and I like that it's another option because it's again, it has value. I think
it really does. And when I say I don't do it, I mean Megan, who I work with, she does it because Megan's excellent at queuing people. And you say you don't need to touch your clients. For me though, I was saying this on the channel the other day with somebody else. I was saying I need to touch my clients. Yeah, and I know that sounds highly inappropriate, but I mean I need to like. For me,
I can attest how you touch your clients is not inappropriate. Yes.
And it's weird because I guess maybe I'm just super old school and I have a hard time adapting, but I'm just like, I don't know if I could do it from my home. I mean, it'd be something, I guess if I didn't have Megan, I'd have to try for sure because people love working with her.
Right.
And I guess she's so used to just getting it through with people through conversation and just queuing people, right? Just, and she can be in a different room and she can do it.
Right. Right.
I mean, maybe I'll have to try.
Well, you know what? It might not be a bad idea to try to train Megan once, and like, just and get a feel for it and see what it's like. Cause, the adrenaline that comes in when you're first doing it for the first few times, you're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. So you're like, you are on point. That's how I was anyway. So I was like, I have to make this valuable. So I'm going to sit there and watch everything and give you something. If I don't give you some sort of correction, I feel like I'm just telling you to do squats and I'm just going to sit there on my couch and, twiddle my thumbs. Like, being, again, that's part of being a good personal trainer is being attentive and being present and like, making sure people are doing things safely, doing things effectively and calling people out. And that's kind of been the fun thing too on the recording aspect of things is like when the reality or like the realness of like our session with one of my one-on-ones who I have a rapport with, and I'm like, what was that? What do you call that? Do you call that a squat or do you call,
you're on it. Yeah.
Fun, right? Like,
and
that's the dance and that's the reality of it. Like you could see how that interaction is also what people are lacking. And that's why, cool Instagram live video, like you could never say that there's no workouts. Like, oh my God, I can't work out. There's nothing to do online.
Yeah,
there's tons, right? But like, you connect with somebody and they make you do things that you wouldn't want to do and you're grateful for them making you do them is what the basis of all that's about. And so, when you do make people do things properly or you're like, that was wicked, even on a Zoom call or whatever, that was a great punch. That was like, whatever, like all these things matter. And it's like, it's about that connection. And if that's all we have, then that's all we have. And that's what we got to use. And so that's the dance. And I don't think it's going away. And I think that it's going to be, I think a lot of people are really sort of, I think they see the value in it too. And that's a good thing, but it's got to be a back and forth.
I agree. Tom, if someone wants to get in contact with you, if they're looking for Zoom workouts are you doing any virtual boxing right now with people as well or anything like that? Like can you do that through Zoom?
Yeah, I'm teaching, I've been working with some people for boxing, teaching them basics and also people that are a bit more advanced and stuff. Like it's an option.
Yeah.
And I usually I'll offer like a 30-minute free trial on Zoom.
Okay.
And I'll do a consult with them beforehand. We'll have a chat on the phone, get a feel for what they do. And then, they can hit me up on my Instagram, which is T3 Athletics. They can send me a DM. Twitter's T3 Athletics or Tom at T3athletics.com, which is my email, obviously.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm going to put all that in the link below in the description to this video.
Appreciate it.
Tom,
awesome.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Nick, I miss you, buddy.
I miss you too.
Yeah, for sure.
It won't be long until we're back side by side again, I'm sure.
I hope so, man. I hope so. But until then, please, you take care of yourself and keep in touch and we'll see how we're going.
I'm glad to hear that you're doing so well though. I mean, I think I've talked to some people, especially trainers who are just kind of like down and like, then that's what I can do. But it sounds like you're actually finding a way to reinvent your business during this time.
Yeah. Again, like sort of going back to basics, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
best way to sort of describe it, it's like, so we got to do, right? We
Exactly.
have to adapt, and that's what this is all about, and stay safe in the process.
But that's what makes you so successful as a trainer, is because you're willing to adapt. You're
For sure.
not willing to throw it in and say, well, what else am I going to do now? I'm going to go start another career. Maybe I'll be a real estate agent,
Exactly.
hairdresser. No, you're a trainer. That's what you do for a living. Now you're going to see this through.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Come hell
Tom,
or high water, or until my mortgage is up
yeah,
completely.
yeah. Tom, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
This video will be going up on Friday afternoon. And yeah, I definitely recommend booking a Zoom workout with Tom. And, he's a fantastic trainer. I can't say more good things about you. I know that for a fact. I've worked alongside this guy for a long time.
Thanks,
And he will give you a good workout, and he'll give you a creative workout.
yes, for sure. Whether you like it or not, we'll see.
Exactly. Thanks, Tom.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Take
Have a good
care.
night. Bye.
Bye.